This is the Foxhole Podcast.
Give it up for my next guest, who is a returning guest. You'll know him as a Gulf War veteran and research associate at Nova Southeastern University's Gulf War Illness Clinical Trials and Interventions Consortium, the GWICTIC. He's a retired Army Sergeant First Class. You heard me right. First class, because he's a first class individual. Welcome back to the Foxhole Podcast, Jimmy Arocho. This episode, we're going to talk about mental wellness. Struggle on, my friends.
Very good.
So let's transition now onto mental health and mental wellness, and something I might call like mind, but it's mental health, right?
Yeah.
And that takes on a lot of things, a lot of avenues you could pursue there. But I'm just curious to hear from you, like what you're doing and what you've seen work for people, and then I'm happy to share what I've been doing lately that I've learned from. I'm going to put a plug in here for a place called the Boulder Crest Foundation. They run a program called Warrior Path, and they've got several. There's one in Arizona and one in Virginia, but they've got several mobile ones. And I learned some of these mental wellness techniques from them, and I'll share those with you after we're done talking. But please go ahead.
Okay. Well, mental health, again, another component in Gabe's vision that is absolutely amazing and extremely important. If at this point, as a Gulf War veteran, we should have been exposed to quite a bit of nudging from the system about mental health. Mental health is an integral component of life, and it's an integral component of quality of life. So quality of life is that thread that runs through everything you're going to hear from me and Gabe. Quality of life is extremely important. I mean, I could see Gabe fired up when he said, "Hey, look, it's me and my son, and we're going to have a snow shoveling contest." Man, he fired up. He lit up. It's like, yeah. And I love that. But see, that's what the cool thing about military people is we got that. Think about that civilian that has never had that.
Yeah.
At least we have somewhere in our DNA, we could call that back up and go, okay, I can compete. And it doesn't have to be crazy. Just set the timers, set the intensity levels, get the Fitbits. I use the Fitbit.
Yeah.
But that's my gauge, my Fitbit, the steps, all that. But
Very good.
Mental health at first became an antagonist in my Gulf War illness trajectory, because early on, you'll remember that Gulf War illness was called Gulf War syndrome.
Yeah.
And Gulf War syndrome is a mental health modality, and it was treated that way by the Veterans Administration. It was extremely frustrating, and if you're resonating with this, don't run. Don't run, because I can share with you that it made me very, very depressed to be treated as if I had a mental health problem. I was literally told by that same PAC team that I'm suggesting you go to, that same team said, "Jimmy, that's in your head, and we're going to help you get over it." And I did the poker face, and I went home, and I would just be upset and let down and sad about that. But I hung with it, and this is why I hung with it, because they said it's all in your head. And isn't everything in our head?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
whether
Our brain's controlling all of these things. So technically, yes, it is in my head.
Technically, yes. So I just kind of leaned into it. I said, okay, well, I don't think that's my issue, but I'm going to lean into it. And I tell you how I leaned into it. I leaned into it by following what the VA recommended. And it started out with CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy, in group.
Mm-hmm.
So there were other Gulf War veterans. There were other Vietnam veterans. There were other in-betweens in there. Then acceptance commitment therapy, ACT. And I've even had PET, which is prolonged exposure therapy, all done in the group. And I can't begin to tell you, Gabe, it by committing to that, it was so powerful. Especially just the part with just being with other veterans was really cool, because
Right.
I'm sitting there listening to the guy across from me. He's a school teacher, in his civilian life, but this guy was in the Corps, humping deserts back in the day, and we had that string between us, but yet he's dealing with this evil thing that is challenging his mental health.
Right.
But you come together, just like in the military, you come together in these VA groups, and you start resonating with it, and then you come home and it's your loved ones see it right off the bat, your wife, your girlfriend, your family. They'll go, hey, something's changed. You become like in cognitive behavior therapy. Excuse me. You do mindfulness, and you start mindfulness is these drills where you put a kisses chocolate in your mouth and you taste the chocolate and the texture of it, and you don't bite it 3 times and swallow it. It's you go through this mindfulness stage, and it starts with foods, but it goes to other things about, hey, did you hear what she said, and what did she mean by why she said, and it just starts opening you up as a man or a woman. It's something you got to go back to. It's almost like yoga or walking or anything else you do. It's mental health, and it's just that one more component that is just strengthening the system. You're strengthening. Remember what me and Gabe resonated with was when you go to that doctor and you're bringing your very best, these are the pieces that make you your very best. So that means that your body and your mind is open to the science. And once it's open and available that way, this is how we get quality of life. It does feed back, and it's just again, the VA may let you down a little bit by suggesting that you do cognitive behavior therapy. And I looked at my brothers next to me, my brothers and sisters. There was this Vietnam era guy next to me. He wasn't having any of this. But after about 3 or 4 weeks, out of a 12-week thing, after like the third week, the guy just, I don't know, just started talking. It was just somebody said something and it resonated with him, and he was one of the most improved out of that group. And we had two neurologists that were running. It was a student that was there with us, and the doctor that was running those modalities. And they're at the psychology level. These guys are masters and PhD level folks. Give them the benefit of the doubt. I know it can be a little frustrating, but that mental health component is just another quiver for quality of life. That when you start putting all of these, once you unpackage these and make them part of your life, you're now so much more powerful of a person and so much more powerful as a patient.
Yeah.
That's important. Yeah.
It is. I heard when I was at Boulder Crest, it was explained, like, it was another veteran there and explained this, like,
Yeah.
hey, this is who you guys are, right? And if this resonates with someone, this is exactly how I felt. We walk around wearing a mask all the time, right?
Oh.
We've got our hat down, we've got our sunglasses on, we've got our, like,
Oh.
I'm a veteran, I got PTSD, so don't come near me. We're basically telling the world,
Right.
don't come and talk to me because you can't understand me as a veteran, right? I've got PTSD,
Right.
I've got illnesses, I've got whatever this is. And
Right.
when we do that, we just sort of putting ourselves in this shell of, we're not interacting with the world, and we don't want the world to interact with us. And why that resonated with me is because the very next thing I heard, or around the same time that we were talking, was this idea of hero. I said, like, as veterans, you are heroes, right? And I first heard that, I thought, well, what? This doesn't even make any sense. I'm a hero. But here's kind of the definition, and I had to write it down so I could remember it. A hero is an ordinary person who survives an extraordinary event, right, and returns home to share the importance of life with those people who didn't experience
Very
that,
powerful.
right?
I love that. Very, very powerful.
So every one of us, having experienced Desert Storm, Desert Shield, or having experienced this life-altering disease, now we've returned home, and it's our duty, it's part of our service to be able to share that with everyone else. Either we share the experience of what it's like, we share the experience of what it was like to serve, what it was like to be a part of something greater than ourselves, whether, we helped somebody out, we helped another country out.
Yeah.
But if we have the mask, and I
Right.
was a guy wearing the mask, believe me. I wore it all the time. I still have my hat on, but my wife would invite me to a party. I'd wear my hat, have my shades, have my veteran shirt on, or, and people would just like, oh, talk to that guy. He looks pissed off.
Yeah, I'll talk to him.
I had my resting bitch face on, and when I did that, I didn't have the opportunity to share the importance of life, of really share the importance. And I mean that, the importance of life.
Yeah.
And we can talk about our quality of life now, and that's not
Yeah.
what it would have been if we didn't deploy. But
Sure.
I think there's a lot to be said for with what we experienced, with enjoying what we have now and telling others that they should enjoy what they have now and enjoy their health while they have it, enjoy their
Yep.
families while they have it.
Yep.
There's something to be said about that. And if we so to pivot on maybe the opposite side of that, right? And
Yeah.
the pivot is like the PTSD side.
Yeah.
Like what I just described is really doable with PTSD, right? You can do those things if you start to think of your
Yeah.
your service as a service, a continued
Yeah.
service, and your experience as some way to give back. But if you want to be miserable,
Yeah.
here's the recipe for being miserable with PTSD. Think of yourself as a victim. First thing you do is like, oh, I'm a victim, right? This happened to me.
Right.
I've got this PTSD. I went into combat. Engage in counterfactual blaming, right? Like, well, you don't really have all the facts, or the facts aren't, you're just kind of putting the blame back on somewhere else. I was that guy. I'm not saying anything that's out of ordinary. I was the guy that was blaming Gulf War illness on everybody. I researched it to
Sure.
the nth degree to find out what happened, who was responsible. But that was that blaming wasn't getting me to better mental health. It was making it worse.
Making it worse.
It was really making it worse. I could ask questions like, why me, without ever coming to any resolution. So I'm just asking the question without trying to fix the problem, right? Fix the challenge. And I was engaging in behaviors that probably weren't the most healthy behaviors for me, right? So
Sure.
so if you're doing those things, just recognize that you're doing those things, right? But
Right.
also recognize that you're a hero. And to get that hero status, you just got to share your experiences with someone
Yes.
else about the importance of life, right? I mean,
Yes.
I don't know. I pretty much have come to the realization that I will probably die before other people my same age, right? Because of my illnesses.
Maybe.
Maybe. All right. That's debatable, right? But
Maybe.
but whether I do or I don't, it doesn't hurt me one bit to live everything that I have to its fullest degree, 100% of the time. It just doesn't.
There you
It
go.
doesn't hurt, right? So, when I think of mental health, I try to put that as my foundation, right? That I need to live this hero status. I need to take all these experiences, my service, what I did, raising my hand, and then I have an obligation to my family, my friends, my community, to come back to tell them how important life is.
Sure.
It's fragile, but
Sure.
it's important, and it's worth living.
That's important.
It's worth
It's
living.
worthwhile. Yes.
And
Rock solid, brother.
yeah.
Rock solid.
So here's a couple things that I do intentional. This isn't something that happens by accident. This is my mental health plan.
Oh, okay.
My day-to-day
Nice.
mental health plan, besides rucking, right? Some sort of exercise.
Yeah.
What's non-negotiable, and I learned this at Boulder Crest as well, I meditate
Okay.
twice a day for 20 minutes. I get up, I make coffee, I come down into my basement, and I meditate for 20 minutes. As soon as I'm done with that meditation, I read a quote. I've got a book of quotes of growth quotes, like winning quotes, those sorts of things. I read it, and then I journal about what I just read. So my journal contains a couple of things. It starts off with gratitude. So one thing that I'm grateful for the day. I'll start my day off with that. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my dog. I'm grateful for being able to see the sunrise. I'm grateful for having friends and being able to produce a podcast and meet incredible people like you, Jimmy. Those are the kinds of things I write down in my journal.
Awesome.
That my gratitude statement, and then I write down my win for the day. When I'm done at the end of the day, when I do my 20 minutes at the end of the day, I write down my win. What's important to me right now? What's important now? Win.
Right.
And then I actually write down what my victory was for the day. What was my victory in this day?
Wow. Man.
And then I just close out with life, like what things were going on in my life, right? One of the best treasures I have in my life is a journal that a family member had given me from my grandfather from 1967. And every once in a while I open that up, and I know my grandfather in ways that I never knew him, because he kept this journal, right?
Because he kept a journal.
Yeah.
Wow.
So not
Man.
only is this good for my mental health, right? But this is also a legacy that I think I'm going to leave hopefully my kids will take this and they'll pass it on to their grandkids, and some grandkids that may not know me in this capacity, they know me as a grandfather, will get to see what I read in a quote every day, what I was grateful for
Wow,
every day, what
that is so cool.
what my wins were for the day, what was important to me that day, and they see that. So that and that's I starts with something I'm accomplishing, kind of like making my bed. I'm doing my meditation. It ends with something I'm
Yes,
accomplishing, and I'm kind of rounding out my
yes,
day. But those meditations are non-negotiable.
right.
That was hard to kind of start that process. Like, sorry, can't negotiate on this. I've been on vacation. I just let everyone know, hey, I'm going in there right now for 20 minutes. It's going to go fast. Just know I'm meditating.
Yes. Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, and by
I'm
the
good.
way, if you want to join me, come on in.
Oh, nice,
We'll walk through the
nice,
meditation. So those are kind
very
of, for
nice.
me, that's I have the physical plan. I actually keep track of it, and with my tracker app, whether it's
Yeah.
Strava or Garmin. I use a Garmin.
Okay.
And then that's my mental health plan, that I have something there, right? But I also interweave exercise and mental health together, right? I might take some time. If I'm out hiking, if I'm on a long hike, I might meditate somewhere along that hike somewhere, right? That'll be my afternoon meditation.
There you go.
But those are non-negotiable things. And like this
Very
again,
powerful.
we're talking about a plan here, right?
Yeah,
For
yeah. We're
all
talking
of
about a
us,
plan.
we can't let
Yes,
life just happen to us. We have to
right.
happen to life. We
That's
have to
right.
happen to life. So that, anyways, that's my
Yeah.
approach. Did you have anything else you wanted to add about the mental health side?
Man, that's just, dude, man, that's just so motivational. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say,
Well,
man.
listen, I didn't. I'm not like, again, I'm not the expert. These are things I picked up from other people, and I definitely
It's
picked some of
wisdom.
these things up from Boulder Crest Foundation. So
Yeah.
if anyone's interested in that place, please PM me privately. But I know I saw on one of the Gulf War forums on Facebook, there was another guy, another Gulf War veteran who went to
Yeah.
one of their
Okay.
deals, and I can't recommend it enough. But you know what they did really well, Jimmy, was they took the things that I've been learning for 30 years, and they had a way of packaging them together to make it really useful. And here's the other benefit, and
Yeah.
I'll add this to the mental health plan too. I didn't
Yeah.
say this, but this is something I do. They recommend three. They call it the 3 to 5. Find three to
Three to
five
five.
people, 3 to 5 people in
Yeah.
your life that you can
Yeah.
sync with on a regular basis, that
Oh wow.
help you carry on, keep you accountable. You can talk to about your struggle. You can talk to about your wins. And so it, once a week for 1 hour, I get together with the guys that were there with me. Right? It's like
Okay.
my new fire team. So I get together with those dudes, and I hear, and it's interesting because it's generations, right? There's Gulf War veterans. There's guys that are like 20 years old that just went, they did a deployment and maybe they're just getting out.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
struggle is relatively the same, right? The struggle is the same, and it's all about struggling well, right? This post-traumatic growth, not post-traumatic
Yes.
disorder. That
Right.
we're going to grow
I like
from
that.
trauma, post-traumatic
Yeah.
growth, and that's kind of what we're talking
Yes.
about here. So if you can swing that, and then I have that group, and then I have other groups of people who I hold near and dear, that I kind of
Yeah.
bounce things off of. You're one of those guys, right? I'll text
Thank
you
you.
off the side and say, "Hey, Jimmy, what do you think about this?" Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I know, so that's that sort of that notion that iron sharpens iron. You have to
Iron
have
sharpens
those.
iron.
You have to have those guys in your guys and gals
Yeah.
in your life, right?
Yes. Awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
You're for the plan, and this is I love the underlining of the plan. Plan your work, then work your plan.
Yeah.
That's you got to have a plan. Just don't wake up and just throw yourself at life, but have that plan. That's extremely thorough. Your mental health clarity is on the order of probably the tallest conversations I've had with clinical neurologists. They talk about brain plasticity and building plasticity
Yeah.
so that you're stronger. You're actually strengthening your brain to deal with the condition, the Gulf War condition, and life and everything. When you're operating at that level, you're building plasticity, and that's part of the plan, and it's awakening. Thank you for sharing. That is awesome.
Last thing I'll comment about, I think, mental health that I want other Gulf War veterans and other veterans in general to have
Yeah,
as part of their toolbox, is I want them to think of their lives as service, right? Like, and how I do that is sometimes this happens in my meditation cycle. Like, who is depending on me? Who
Okay.
needs me right now, right? And I've got
Okay.
family, I've got children, I've also got
Sure.
coworkers, I've got friends,
Okay.
I volunteer at some places, and so when you start thinking about people depending on you, people needing you,
Yeah.
it puts you in
Yeah.
this mind frame of service, right? And there's really no
Right.
greater calling in life than to serve. That's why we're all
Yeah.
here, because we all raised
That's
our
why.
hand and
Yeah.
said, I want to go.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do that, right?
Yeah.
And just because you're back here now and you're ill, that doesn't mean you can't serve. And
Right.
there's just no greater calling than that service. And that service can be the hero, right? You're coming back now to share your experiences about the importance of life. That might be your service.
This is the Foxhole Podcast.